Hey everybody, it's Bill. I am the salty old Marine. Hey, here's some signs that you can use to know when a claim is worth filing. In other words, you're thinking about filing a VA disability claim. How do you know it's worthwhile? How do you know you should waste your time on it? Let's talk about that. So first of all, the three things that every successful VA disability claim requires. An in-service event. Right? Something happened to you while you were on active duty in the military. A current diagnosis. In other words, whatever it was you had then, you have now, and you have a medical professional saying you have that thing. You've been diagnosed with that thing. Right? We're not doctors, most of us. We don't self-diagnose, but a doctor can diagnose us. So we have a current diagnosis, we have an in-service event. And third, we have a link between those two things. In other words, on an at least as likely as not basis, that's the standard, at least as likely as not, meaning roughly 50%, right? It's at least as likely as not that the current diagnosis, what you currently have, was caused by or made significantly worse by your in-service event. So, if you have evidence of your in-service event and you have a current diagnosis, and you have the ability to create the link between the two, that's a great sign that you have a valid claim. Now, having said that, the next part of that puzzle, beyond getting service connected, is the part where you get paid. How much will you get paid? Well, the VA pays on a disability basis on percentages. So you get a 10% disability. It's like $175 a month, more or less. You get 100% disability. It's nearly $4,000 a month, more or less. Tax-free, and if you don't ever get better, then it's for the rest of your life, and so on. But what about you? What about your claim? Well, you find that in the 38 CFR, the Code of Federal Regulations. The 38 CFR Part 4 has the diagnostic codes for whatever you're filing for. So if you're filing for migraines, you can look up migraines. Google is a good tool. Google for migraine VA disability 38 CFR. Try it. You'll get a listing of a bunch of paragraphs. They're not too hard to read, and across from each paragraph is a percentage, 100%, 70%, 50%, and so on. And each paragraph next to that number tells what the requirements are for that percentage to be granted. That's where you match that to your symptoms. So in other words, if you have migraines and they're completely prostrating and they're affecting your ability to have a family life, a social life, earn a living, and so on, and they're maybe, say, I don't know, at least once a week, that falls under a particular percentage in the 38 CFR. So then you would know, okay, I've got the in-service event. I was diagnosed with migraines while I was in the military. I've got the current diagnosis. I have a neurologist who says, yes, you have migraines, and maybe they prescribe some medication for it. And then I've read the 38 CFR, and I can match up my symptoms to exactly what the VA says matches a particular rating. Now you have the information you need to file that claim. So that's how you know. If you don't have those things, then probably need to keep working on it, right? So if you don't have that in-service event, you're going to have to figure out, how do I prove that I had migraines back then? There's a variety of ways to do that. And I'm using migraines as an example. It could be anything, any disability. If it's not actually in your service records, it may not be an issue if you can prove it in other ways. Maybe you were married at that time and your spouse can write a letter and say, yeah, I observed that back then while he or she was still serving in the military. And current diagnosis, of course. Let's just say you don't get a current diagnosis. When I filed for my tinnitus, I didn't know, so I didn't get a current diagnosis. Well, they sent me to a C&P exam, a compensation and pension exam, and the compensation and pension examiner was qualified to write that diagnosis and did. So that diagnosed me for tinnitus. Probably should have gone and gotten that diagnosis myself ahead of time. That's okay. But again, this is how you know that you should file your claim. If you've got that in-service event, if you've got that current diagnosis, if you believe that you can make the connection between the two, something called a nexus, on an at least as likely as not basis, and you've matched that up to your symptoms, so you have some idea of what you're filing for, right? Maybe it's not worth your time if the most you can get is a 0% rating. Service connected, but no money for you. Well, okay, if you want to get treated by the VA, all you need is service connection, even at 0%. On the other hand, if you're looking for a disability amount of money to come in and it's 0% and that's all you can possibly get, well, maybe you don't want to file for it. But that's all up to you. These are the signs you would have to let you know that you should consider filing your claim. I hope you found that helpful. I'm Bill. I am the Salty Old Marine. Please like, share, and subscribe. Tell a friend, leave a comment, and as always, have a great day.